Hi everybody, welcome back to the Crime Lab. So today I'm going to be talking about the Hargon family killings. So this happened back in 2017. And as always, little viewer discretion is advised. With many of my topics, there is going to be discussion of murder, crime scenes, all that sort of thing. So if that might upset you in any way, this might not be the video for you. So little viewer discretion. So back in 2017, the Hargan family, which included Helen, her older sister Megan, and their mother Pam, were all living in McLean, Virginia. About that time, they seemed like a pretty normal family. But on July 14th of that year, around 11:30 in the morning, Helen called her boyfriend, Carlos Gutierrez, who was living in Texas at the time, to tell him that her sister Megan had claimed to have killed their mother. Helen hadn't seen their mother in a few days, was asking Megan about it, and Megan was like, yeah, I killed her. And her boyfriend, Carlos, because, he was concerned, told her, hey, you need to still act as normal as you can. Like, this is concerning, of course, but, she just admitted that she killed somebody. So you need to keep this kind of on the DL for the moment. Now, mind you, little pretext, I couldn't find a ton of information about the family prior to all of this happening. So this is just the events of this, kind of the start of it and what kept happening, as well as the investigation and everything. I couldn't find much of anything prior to these events. So unlike some other stories that I cover, I'm not really going to go into family history, their upbringing, anything like that, just because I don't really have that information. So around 1:15 the following afternoon, so July 15th, coming up on a little over a day after Helen and Carlos had talked, and Helen had said, hey, she just told me that she killed her mom. Carlos kept trying to get a hold of Helen, but she wasn't answering her phone. No text, nothing like that. So Carlos got worried and called the Fairfax County 911, which is something that you can do for anybody that isn't aware of that. You are able to contact like a 911 dispatcher that is not in your county. And when he did that, he told the 911 dispatcher what Helen had told him, saying that she's not answering her phone and I'm concerned something bad happened to her too. But anytime he talked to authorities, he kept feeling like they were giving him the runaround. They weren't taking him seriously, and that they were just treating him like he didn't know what he was talking about. So finally he was able to get them to go to the crime scene. And when they arrived just before 3 p.m. and they found Pam, so Helen and Megan's mom, in the mudroom, face down, with a blanket covering her phone, and they found her phone partially on top of the blanket. So it's kind of hidden. And then they furthered their investigation, through the rest of the house, like they do in typically any crime scene. They'll start at an entry point and they'll kind of sweep through the house to figure out is there a gunman or a gunwoman? Is there somebody with a weapon? They're trying to clear the scene to make sure that nobody's going to get hurt if there's somebody with a weapon, or eliminating the idea that somebody has a weapon and is alive around the house. And upstairs, they discovered Helen, so Carlos's girlfriend, found her upstairs dead in the bathroom with a rifle between her legs. So more than likely, she was either leaning up against a wall with a rifle between her legs, or depending on the setup of the bathroom, she may have been lying in a particular area, just again, depending on how she was when she was in the bathroom. She may have been lying down with the rifle between her legs, or sitting up against something with the rifle between her legs. So then they arrived there just before 3 p.m. At about 5 p.m., they were actually able to talk to Megan, Helen's sister, and she told investigators that she had left home early afternoon and her mother had been alive. So at this point, she had been told that police had found her mother and her sister dead. She'd left, her mother was alive and well, but Pam and Helen had been fighting. So this is actually a quote from her, part of her interrogation, part of her questioning and everything. "This morning, my mom let Helen know that she was canceling the contract on the house she's building her because she truly believed that Helen was gonna try to move Carlos into the house, and my mom didn't want him being there." So, claim of why they were fighting. Is that true? We don't know, because of course, unfortunately, both people that are claimed to have been part of that altercation are now deceased. About 8 p.m., statements were made by the police. So they do like the press conferences about various cases, especially if there's multiple people killed on a scene. Statement was made that Helen's wounds they appeared to be self-inflicted, leading to the initial belief of a murder-suicide. But Detective Brian Byerson, wasn't convinced that Helen committed suicide. Something appeared to be a red flag to him. Alarm bells were ringing, but to him it just didn't make sense that it was a murder-suicide. Another detective, Julia Elliott, found several pieces of evidence that caught her attention. So the first one was Pam's cell phone. So Pam was the mother. It was lying on top of a pool of blood and a blanket. To her, that appeared that the cell phone had been put there after Pam had died, after whatever wounds she experienced were inflicted and she had passed away. The phone was then put there and covered by the blanket. It didn't appear as if Pam was able to put that there herself, or that she had dropped it there, considering that it was in a pool of blood, appearing to have been laid on top of the pool of blood. The rifle that was found with Helen, there was a lot of blood on the floor, but not on the rifle itself. If she had the rifle closer, there would have been a lot more on the gun had she committed self-inflicting wounds. So, there's the further away you are when you shoot somebody, and I'm sure some people that have shot paintball guns at close range, say against a wall or a piece of wood, know some of the splatter that can happen on their paintball guns. Similar sort of idea. The closer you are to something when it hits, it's going to, moisture and debris are more likely to come back and hit the gun. Same sort of thing with when you're inflicting a wound onto somebody. And then Helen's cell phone. It was found on the counter. And although she used it to contact Carlos, of course, on many situations because, they were dating, there was no fingerprints found, as if it had been wiped clean. Police also found swipe marks. So, when you wipe a counter clean, you can see swipe marks. Same sort of thing was found on her phone. As if somebody else had touched it. They knew they left fingerprints. They wanted to wipe it clean so that it couldn't be traced back to them as having handled the phone. So then during Helen's autopsy, it showed a wound at the top of the head with a bullet path going down into her neck. So if I'm Helen, it would have been at a either angle like this where it would have gone into her neck, or top of the head sort of idea. Just as a better way to explain it, that's kind of where an entry point would be somewhere more on the top of the head or the forehead, to have a bullet path going into the neck at any point. And that tells the detectives that she would not have been able to pull the trigger. Considering how large rifles are, there would have been virtually no way of being able to have caused that injury. So then there was some footage, some like ATM CCTV security footage that was found at a local bank, which was a Capital One bank, a couple days after the murders occurred. So it was July 17th when Brian Byerson, one of the detectives, received a call from the Capital One bank. There was a transfer of more than $400,000 from Pam's account on the day before and day of the murder. So that's a lot of money, a lot of motive, potentially. And when Pam was notified of it, she didn't know who the caller was who was trying to get a hold of her about the account, and so she froze the account. She stopped any transactions from happening. And then she sent Megan to the bank to confirm the account freezing, because she, of course, didn't know who was trying to transfer all this money out of her account. So she's like, okay, this is somebody that I trust. I'm going to have them make sure that my account is not being accessed or being hacked by somebody that it shouldn't be. So 5 days after the shooting, Byerson interviewed Megan, so the surviving sister, and that interrogation lasted over 4 hours. Megan did admit during the interview that she was the person trying to transfer the funds from Pam's account, but she was adamant. She was like, absolutely not. I did not kill my family. And then November 9th, so this was about 4 months later, Megan was arrested. They were able to make some sort of connection to her, whether it be physical evidence, circumstantial evidence. They had some sort of evidence connecting her to the murder that was able to lead to an arrest. And Detective Byerson did say, regarding the delayed arrest, this was in November 9th of 2018, my bad. So this was over a year post murder, not just 4 months. This was about a year and 4 months. He said that murder investigations can be extremely complex. You not only need to be just, you have to be right, which, of course, in the US legal system, there are many cases where it's eventually found out that the police are not correct and they arrested the wrong person. But if there is a large amount of evidence suggesting that somebody is connected to a crime, they will still arrest you until the trial happens and a conviction is given, whether the jury and or judge finds you guilty or not guilty. If there's a strong connection between you and a crime, it's not uncommon that you are going to be held until everything can be cleared. So during the trial, this actually happened over 3 years after the arrest. So this would have been about 2021. The trial begins. Prosecution said Megan was so desperate for money to purchase a house that she killed her mom for access to her bank account and killed Helen to keep her quiet, then staged the scene so that it appeared as a murder-suicide. Defense argued that Helen was the actual killer and claimed that she was mentally unstable and furious at her mom for threatening to take away her house because Helen didn't end her relationship with Carlos. After killing Pam, Helen used her toe to pull the trigger. Prosecution again retorted that there's no evidence that Pam was going to cancel the contract on Helen's house. That those were just claims that Megan was making, that Pam had threatened that to Helen. So they actually did a reconstruction of the scene and events happening, which is very, very common in murder trials where it appears there may have been some sort of staging. They'll recreate the scene, sometimes using actors, sometimes just doing a setup and doing a walkthrough of it. So forensic specialist Iris Daly Graff was brought in by the prosecution to reconstruct the scene, and after analyzing photos and all the photos, figuring out the layout of everything, she doesn't believe that Helen was able to take her own life. Although her legs would have been long enough to reach, she doesn't believe that that's actually what happened. And considering the autopsy results and where bullet exit wounds were and all of that, she didn't believe that there was a way that Helen was able to do that. There was a way, but she didn't believe Helen actually did it. So the verdict was given about 2 days after 2 days of deliberation. After 2 days of deliberation, the verdict was given. And Megan was found guilty on March 8th of 2022, so only about a year and a half ago. March 28th, and the jury recommended life in prison on both counts. And she was sentenced on October 28th of 2022, so just over a year ago, she was sentenced to life in prison. And there is some new information that, as of the time of researching this case, was found. So Tasha Nix, who was one of the jurors in this trial, had actually gone home during the trial to try and recreate the scene to kind of understand a little bit more of what was being explained using a .22 rifle, and was testing the theory that it could be used as suicide. And she, from what she was able to try, she didn't think it was possible that Helen would be able to do that, considering Helen was shot on the top of the head. And during deliberations, Nix told the other jurors what she found. And of course, the defense attorney argued that the attempted reenactment of the shooting was equivalent to misconduct, since judges' instructions were to not conduct outside research. So there is an attempt to get her a new trial, claiming that one of the jurors screwed up and did not do what she was supposed to. So this is a relatively new case. As I said, they are trying to get a retrial, considering what one of the jurors did and did some outside research. I don't really have any personal thoughts on this one. In my mind, I don't want to say cut and dry, but it does appear that Megan is guilty, and considering that she admitted that she was trying to take money out of her mom's account, and um, that she's claiming, oh, my mom and my sister were fighting about this, I had nothing to do with it. I think that just, I don't know how much you can believe people that say that when they also admit to doing other illegal activities. So I kind of question a lot of what she says, claiming that she didn't do it. But I want your guys' opinions. So feel free to leave any thoughts, comments, emotional outbursts about this case in the comments. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe. If you have any cases that you think I should cover, whether it be current cases, historical, more international cases, let me know. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye.